Okay, guys, today we're going to give you something a little bit different here. We're going to talk about these new Spiritbox tracks. It wasn't just one, it was actually 3 of them. First up, the one that has a music video is called Rotoscope, and then I believe the other ones are called Me Up and Hysteria, if I'm not mistaken. So I thought this was interesting because I am a huge Spiritbox guy. Probably one of my favorite contemporary bands right now. Saw them live. That's where I got COVID. Good times. So here's the thing about Spiritbox, right? I'm not really much of a metalcore guy, not really much of a genty guy, but for some reason, Spiritbox really, really works for me. And if you guys haven't heard their old stuff before, their first EP they put out, I believe it was called the Mara Project. This one is a bit weird. Or sorry, the Mara Effect, my mistaken. This one's a bit weird. It's a little bit more like, how do we say, on the proggier side of things? Like, a little atmospheric, contortion-y, architects-y at times. Like, it's cool. It's not totally my thing, though. But, you know, it's really good stuff. Then the stuff from Spiritbox that really won me over was stuff like pretty much anything off of Eternal Blue. I fucking adore this album.
I'm
I think
breaking
it's
up with coffee.
one of the greatest things ever, quite frankly. Probably one of my favorite albums of that year. My God. Like, Hurt You. This is so good. You see, what I love about Spiritbox ultimately is that, like, they're really, really simple, but they're really effective. They have hooks, they got the riffs, and all just kind of comes together, and, like, awesome stuff, especially considering the context of, like, I Wrestled a Bear Once, right? I believe Courtney, who is a Spiritbox singer, was on the last 2 I Wrestled a Bear Once albums, and not really my favorite thing in the whole wide world. Like, I Wrestled a Bear Once is really cool, a little too quirky for my tastes sometimes. So, you know, Spiritbox turned into this, obviously. You have some other parts here that I think are interesting. So the reason I put on Yellow Jacket very specifically is because Rotoscope has a bit of a similar vibe, especially towards the beginning. Like, this whole thing with all like the synthesizers and that more of like electronic kind of effect that appears in some of the newer songs. I can understand that might turn off some other people, but I personally really like this. So again, starts off a little bit more dancey, a little bit more in the poppy vein, and I think in a lot of ways Eternal Blue really did tease this sound for Spiritbox. I can kind of imagine them going in a bit more of like a poppy alternative, just, I guess, always rooted in metalcore, but maybe branching out a bit. And I'm probably going to be okay with that, especially if it turns into something more like in the vein of Rotoscope. I think this is really cool. You know, like, I think the mix on this song is just, like, fucking awesome. Really, really cool stuff. I don't want to say I was kind of surprised, because I probably should have been, but I was taken a little bit off guard. I did kind of expect, honestly, just some more of the heavy stuff. I kind of expected more of a Holy Roller kind of vibe. You know, like, more songs like that, more like Hurt You, a little bit like darker, heavier, breakdowny, with, you know, the poppy choruses kind of just like thrown in. And I could see like a lot of people maybe hearing this and getting turned off, but that's to them. You know, it's a pretty cool music video. Nothing I wouldn't, again, that's ever gonna like fuck me up. And this is probably the part that like won people over. Like, I'm sure a lot of people heard the first like bit of this song and thought, oh man, I'm so disappointed this band is turning poppy. But I think like this part in particular works so well, and it's contrasted so well with more of the hooky kind of like poppier stuff. Just so cool. I really, really like this. It really does feel like a breath of fresh air, honestly, to kind of like mix up my playlist a little bit, you know? Cool stuff, man. Yeah, Courtney's probably one of my favorite vocalists of all time. I think the reason why for me is not only do I think her voice is obviously awesome when she does both the cleans and the screaming, man, she's really good at writing hooks over top of like some pretty weird stuff sometimes, man. And like, you know, Spiritbox, they do sometimes play a little conventional with their guitar riffs, but like she really does make it stand out. That's how good of a vocalist I think she is. And I think like her lyrics are great. The guitar player, Mike, always bringing the heat. Really creative with the breakdowns and stuff like that. And as far as like a core genre listener kind of fellow myself, the breakdowns aren't usually the part that wins me over, but Spiritbox has good ass breakdowns. But I think our breakdowns work so well, again, because they are contrasted by more like songs that are based around hooks and choruses and blah blah blah. And I just think the whole package comes together really, really well. But you know, you get the idea for this one. It's exactly what you think it is. So Me Up was the other song they put out yesterday.
Small spaces.
And yes, I don't have ad block. Just get off my case, okay? And here's another one. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Breaking up the flow. Okay. So here's the other song they put out, or one of the other songs they put out. And this one, I could see maybe winning over some more of their core audience because it has a little bit more of that metal vibe, a little bit of that modern metalcore vibe to it. Cool stuff. Really good chorus in this one. Let's go skip ahead a bit. Just cool. Just cool. Very atmospheric. Very dense sound. That's what I really like about their mixes, too. I really like how much is happening in their mixes, but it never feels like it's bearing down the listener. It's like really cool imagery and stuff like that. I think Spiritbox is just fucking brilliant, man. And the other one they put out, Hysteria. Again, this one I could see kind of winning over the core audience a bit more. It's a little bit more straight to the point, a little bit less like synthesizer bass and stuff like that. So I think the real question here going forward is, what is Spiritbox going to turn into? I think their trajectory has been really interesting, especially if you consider the Mara effect and how that started off as a very, very proggy, weird metalcore kind of experimental kind of thing, turning into this very like, you know, powerhouse, super poppy, hooky kind of metalcore band. And now whatever this is, like, I don't know how much genre bending they plan on doing in the future, but it kind of seems like they're almost like priming us listeners for maybe more of like either a poppier direction, more of electronic direction, maybe kind of turning into a pop band. Who knows? They could pull like a Bring Me the Horizon and actually turn into a full-on pop act. I probably wouldn't want that, but I'm kind of curious to see where we go from here. I think like either way, I'm probably going to be sold on it. Like I'm a pretty big like sycophant of this band. I hope they keep some of the metal stuff in there because I think that's what I like about them most is they have both the metal parts that are very heavy, very genty, very corey, but then they have the poppy singing and the kind of like the hooks and stuff like that, and I love that kind of contrast. I think it's brilliant. I think a lot of bands try it. I think a lot of bands fail at it. That's actually kind of why I'm not really into metalcore, but I really like hardcore and deathcore, for example. I find a lot of metalcore bands do try to do the half poppy chorus and the half heavy verse thing, and it doesn't really work for me a lot of the time, man. I think a lot of it, too, is maybe because the clean singing is usually never as good as the growls and the gutturals, but, you know, that's just my take on metalcore. Regardless, these 3 new Spiritbox songs. I'm into it. Do I like it more than anything on Eternal Blue? I'm going to say probably not, if I'm being honest, but I think these songs actually do kind of fit in with the overall set list that Eternal Blue was kind of going for. So there you have it. I'm Marcus from the Deep Dive Discography podcast. Thank you for watching, and talk to y'all soon.